The International Monetary Fund has issued a warning. It says a third of the global economy will be in recession this year, a third. Europe will not be able to escape it. The US is also teetering on the verge. And if the developed economies are facing such fate, what will happen to South Asian countries? The IMF head has said that 2023 is going to be tougher than the year we left behind. And why is that? Because the three big economies, the US, EU, China, are all slowing down simultaneously. In October, the IMF cut its outlook for global economic growth in 2023. It came as the war in Ukraine, rising inflation, higher interest rates, the spread of the Wuhan virus in China weighed on the global economy. Even though China has scrapped its zero-COVID policy, it would still face a difficult start to 2023. And for the first time in 40 years, China's growth in 2022 is likely to be at or below global growth. President Xi Jinping is concerned. He's called for more effort and unity as China enters a supposed new phase. In fact, in October's forecast, the IMF pegged Chinese gross domestic product growth at 3.2%. This was on par with the fund's global outlook for 2022. At that time, it also saw annual growth accelerating in 2023 to 4.4%. This came as global activity had slowed down further. But the IMF head's comments suggest another cut to both the China and the global growth outlooks this month, as the body unveils updated forecasts during the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. Meanwhile, the American economy is standing apart. It may successfully avoid the outright contraction, which is likely to afflict a third of the world's economies. According to the IMF, the labor market remains quite strong, but it still needs to control its inflation, which touched its highest level in 4 decades last year. US inflation passed its peak as the year ended, but it still remains nearly 3 times the target of 2%. If there is a downturn in the US, its effects can ripple across the world, especially Asian countries, and let me explain how. The decline could suppress the demand for products manufactured in China. It could also affect imports from other Asian countries like Thailand, Vietnam. Higher interest rates also make borrowing more expensive for both these reasons. Companies may choose to not invest in expanding their businesses. And this lack of growth can trigger investors to pull money out of an economy. And so countries, especially poorer ones, would have less cash to pay for essential imports like food and energy. In these kinds of slowdowns, a currency can lose value against those of more prosperous economies. And this further compounds the issue. And it doesn't only affect the cost of living. The impact of higher interest rates on loans affects economies at the government level as well, especially emerging markets, which may struggle to repay their debts. So what does that mean for South Asian countries like Sri Lanka? As you already know, the island nation was riddled with mass protests. As Sri Lanka struggled with the cost of living crisis, the country's economy collapsed, sparking political turmoil. And the ouster of the former president Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the country is now trying to get back on its feet. It qualified for an extended fund facility of $2.9 billion from the IMF. So what would a global recession spell for it? Will Sri Lanka slip into rogue hands because of its economic issues? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.